Hello people of YouTube. I'm back again with that box from Atlas that I showed you last week. We took a look at the N-scale stuff last week. This week we're going to take a look at the HO scale model that's in it. Let's head over to the workbench and take a look. Alright, so here we are at the workbench, and what we're looking at is a Central California Traction GP7. Central California Traction is also known as CCT. This is an operator that still exists. This model is part of Atlas's classic line, and these come in two different varieties. You have the silver variety, which is DC only. That goes for $169.95. And you have the gold series, which is this one. This has ESU, LokSound, DCC, and sound already installed from the factory. They use a LokSound Select decoder for that. There's quite a bit of additional documentation in the box. You have your warranty card here. There's an exploded view drawing sheet here. And then this one is the operation guide for the ESU LokSound decoder. Tells you all about which CVs control what and all that kind of good stuff. So let's take a closer look at the actual details on the model. One of the first things I noticed about this locomotive when I took it out of the box is that the paint job is really good. And what I mean by that is the red covers really well, and it's thin enough that it doesn't cover over any details like grills or rivet detail or anything like that. The white striping and printing on this locomotive are also done exceptionally well. There's no bleed lines. They're very clean separation between the red and the white. So they did a really good job with that. And then the black around the roof of the locomotive also is very clean. If you look real closely, you can see there's a crew member in there. And there's one on the other side as well. And the crew members are facing that way, toward the long hood. That's because these locomotives were made to run long hood forward. And you can see the F down here, which is what that means. So looking at the front end now, some of the standout details I noticed are the separately applied hoses that come off the front there in front of the pilot. And I'm really keen on the stripes on the edges of the steps and the fact that the handrails are white and red both. That looks really cool. If you look also, you can see that these are very thin wire grabs. And the numbers in the number board look especially good. It just looks really clean. I don't know how else to describe this. All the lines are really clean. From this angle, you can get a better look at how pristine the barricade striping is. And you can also see that the detail in the railings is very good. The chain detail here is very thin. There's your drop step in the up position and more hoses on the side there. Something else I've noticed is how good the handrails and stanchions look. Quite frequently on models like this, your stanchions get warped and it creates an ugly look with your handrails where they lean forward or backward or they're not straight up and down. This model does not have that problem. These handrails actually look especially good. And in case you were wondering, that is an Accumate knuckle coupler. You can really see what I was talking about here. Look how straight up and down all the stanchions are on the handrails. They look really good. And then you can see on this side more grill detail. And you know, if you put some weathering powder, darker weathering powder in here, that would really make this pop. One other thing I noticed that looks especially good is the logo. There's one on each side and it's a really clean print on both sides. So taking a look at the rear now, and you'll see more separately applied fine wire grabs. You got your hose detail. I didn't mention it on the other end, but there's also an uncoupling lever that's also very fine scale. I mean, the scale on the detail parts of this model looks very convincing. And now we've come full circle. And once again, I'll just point out how clean the logo is over here. It's just overall a really sharp looking model. Alright, so looking at the details in the top of the locomotive, you can see that the fans are molded, but the way they've done it, there's a depth to them. They almost look like separately applied parts, but they are definitely molded. Then you have a 5-chime horn here, which, even though this is a plastic casting, it's pretty convincing. It almost looks like a brass horn. The detail in it is pretty good. The dual exhausts are also molded, and I would imagine if you wanted to, you could cut that molded plastic out to give the exhaust some depth. So I've tilted the model on its side a little bit, just so that you can see all the detail that's included in the trucks here. There's a lot of extra stuff. These trucks are more detailed than trucks you normally see on models like this. And then over here, you have your dual air tanks. And something that kind of confused me at first is the fuel tank down here. This is accurate. When I first pulled this out of the box, I thought, oh no, it's missing its fuel tank. But no, this is an 800-gallon fuel tank, which is correct for the number 60, by the way. I did double check that with some photos on the internet. The 1,600-gallon fuel tank that could be on a model like this would be the one that comes all the way out to the edge here. Okay, we're going to give it a run now. I have my computer set up, connected to the track through a Sprog running JMRI, and I'm going to use Y throttle to give it a little test run. Definitely going to have to change the horn setting. Now I'm purposely not giving it much throttle here. Look how slow this is. That's smooth. Great slow speed capability on this guy. I get the throttle all the way down to 1 right now. Pretty impressive. Alright, so we're going to go through some of the sounds here. We have the coupler clank, manual notching up, so what the manual notching up function does is you push F9 and then your throttle control makes the engine go faster or slower. You can make it notch down as well by using the F10 key. There's your brake wheel. This is F18, your sanding valve. F19 is the short air let-off sounds. And F20 is your air compressor. And F21 is the pop valve sounds. And here you can see the lights. And it has a light dimming feature on F12. So if another train's headed down the layout toward your train, you're supposed to hit F12. This is running on DC. And on DC you don't have control over things like the horn, but it does give you sound. Okay, switching directions now. And I should mention, I'm having to give this thing quite a bit of juice. I'm using a Bachmann Spectrum Magnum DC power pack, and I had it all the way up to 65 before the sound even came on. You do have to wait for the sound to fully initiate before the locomotive will move when you're operating in DC. I like this model a lot. The plastic handrails being as straight as they are is a real plus, because a lot of models suffer from crooked or bent stanchions, which causes the handrails to not look so good. These fine wire grabs also look particularly nice, and all the separately applied detail and the hoses and all that stuff on the Pilot. The other thing I really like about it is the paint job. This is one of the sharpest looking models I think I've ever seen. The red and white really contrast well together and work off of each other well. The barricade striping and just everything, all the lines in it are very, very sharp. So I really like it. I think it's cool that they have a dual mode decoder in there so that people who use DC only can get the sound out of the locomotive. I think that's a nice feature to have. If you don't care about sound, obviously you would go with just the straight DC one, and it costs less. But if you like having the sound and you only run DC, it still works. And I think that's a pretty cool feature to have. Anyway, if you have a comment you'd like to share with everybody, put it in the comment section below. I'll see you next time.